When I was in high school, I was invited to this dude's named Jeff birthday party. He wasn't really one of my best friends, and sometimes he would say some weird stuff, but I knew him pretty well, so why not? 2 friends of mine were also invited. We all got in Jeff's house around 5:30 p.m., and there weren't many people there. He greeted us with his big smile that went across his face. His smile was really creepy, not gonna lie to you. At one moment, I got out of the house with my friends a little. That's when we first saw this guy dressed as a clown. We wondered if he was in the party too, but we weren't sure. Keep in mind that this was in the time where a lot of people walked around the streets like clowns to scare others. It was 2016. He looked to us and said, "Hey, kids, enjoying your friend's party?" And we said, "Yeah, man, are you in the party too?" He replied, "Yeah, somehow I am." And he let out a crazy laugh. We didn't understand shit, but we were like, okay, whatever. But then, something terrible happened. The clown suddenly turned back to our direction and took out a metal bar out of his pocket. It wasn't too big, but we definitely saw it and began to look at him freaked out. Suddenly, he starts walking quickly towards us. Man, we ran back to Jeff's house and locked the front door. We stood there in the door looking at the peephole and trying to catch our breaths, but the clown wasn't in sight. Jeff's house was quiet, too quiet. Almost all the other guests must have gone home. There were only 2 people there. Jeff's parents were still at work. "Did you see his face? And the metal bar?" One of my friends whispered. "Bro, he was serious. What kind of psycho walks around with a metal bar near a party?" We stood there in the hallway trying to figure out what to do next. Jeff, who had been lingering in the background, suddenly stepped forward, his creepy smile still plastered on his face. "Hey guys," Jeff said in a tone that was too casual for what had just happened. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Dude, there's a freaky clown outside," I said with panic starting to get into my voice. "He had a freaking metal bar, and he ran towards us." Jeff's smile didn't falter, but his eyes seemed to narrow slightly. "A clown, huh? That's weird. Maybe he's just one of these stupid YouTube pranksters trying to mess with y'all." "I don't know, it didn't look like a prank," my friend muttered, backing away from the door. "We need to call the cops or something, man." Jeff just shook his head and said, "Nah, no need to get the cops involved. I'm sure it's just a joke. Let's go to the basement and wait there for a while. It's safer down there." The last thing we wanted to do was go into the basement with him, but Jeff was already leading the damn way, and my friends were also too scared to argue. We reluctantly followed him, descending the narrow staircase into the dimly lit basement. The air was damp and musty, and there was a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Jeff flopped down on an old couch, gesturing for us to sit down too. "We'll just hang out here until everything blows over," he said with an oddly soothing voice. I didn't like this. Jeff was too calm, too relaxed considering what had just happened. I glanced at my friends, who looked just as uneasy as I felt. We still couldn't shake the feeling that somehow the clown was still out there, waiting for us to come out of the house. Suddenly, we heard a soft thud from the main floor, followed by another. My friends and I froze, our eyes darting toward the ceiling. Jeff didn't seem bothered at all. "What was that?" I whispered with my voice trembling. Jeff shrugged. "Probably just the house settling. Old places make weird noises, you know?" But I wasn't convinced. The thuds continued, getting slightly louder. It sounded like footsteps, heavy and slow, moving across the floor above us. My heart raced faster with each step, the sense of dread growing stronger. "We need to get out of here," I said, standing up. "I don't care what Jeff says. This isn't right," I whispered to my friends. But as we got out of the basement, the light from the hallway casted a long shadow on the main floor. The shadow was tall, too tall to belong to Jeff or any of us. "Man, do you guys see it?" my friend whispered. "Shit, man, look at that shadow." We gasped, stumbling back into the basement. There was somebody up there, and it sounded like the footsteps of boots. No way that clown changed his shoes and somehow got in the house. My friend called the police, and we had the brilliant idea to get up there to see who it was. But when we got there was no one. Jeff grabbed his baseball bat and we got out of the house to see if he was over there. Then, in the distance, we saw him, the clown, again. He was doing some kind of weird dance on the sidewalk. It was really creepy. We stood near the front door and then he came towards to us. He saw us there and he said, "Happy birthday. Be careful not to die today." Then, for a long, tense few minutes, the clown didn't move a single part of his body. And that was it. He got out of sight for the rest of the night or forever. After that, me and my friends got out of there in an Uber, and we went straight to our homes. We still don't know who that guy was, and what his intentions were. Sad to think that even in a birthday party, some scary shit like that suddenly can happen to anybody. Some really crazy stuff happened in my birthday party when I was turning 16. We threw a pool party at my uncle's house during the afternoon. We invited 15 people, including my friends, relatives, and my parents' friends. At one moment, we were near the pool just drinking soda and chatting a bit. Then, the two people that I was talking to had to go to their car because they thought they let my gift there. It was then that this man came out the house to my direction. He said hi to me and sat next to me in a table near the pool. This dude said he was friends with my dad, although I've never seen him before in my life. I'm a girl, so I got really scared for my safety. Then he told me something that sent me chills to the core. "Be careful who you stay with out there. There are some really weird people around and you wouldn't want to meet them." Somehow this dude got in the house and everybody must have thought he was actually invited. He handed me a gift and said, "Open it up tonight. I think you'll like it." And in the gift, he put my name on it. I was trying to know, how the hell did he know my name? I just said thank you, and then the man left the party, saying, "See you around out there." Me, my family, and my friends partied for some more time before people started leaving at around 7 p.m., and I left around there with my parents too. I was curious and scared about the gift that the Mr. Creepy Dude gave me. I hadn't told my parents yet. When I got home, I was alone in my room when I opened it, and my heart dropped. It was a framed picture. The dude put a photo of him wearing a hoodie next to a picture of mine. It also had a letter on the side. It read, "Dear Lucy, I hope you enjoy your gift. You're a really beautiful person, and I hope I'll see you again one day soon. With love from your secret mysterious admirer." I was speechless. I sat on my bed, staring at it in disbelief. His face was partly obscured by the hoodie, but his eyes were unmistakably fixated on me. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it. How could he have gotten that photo of me? Who was he really? I couldn't get his words out of my head. "Be careful who you stay with out there." I decided to go downstairs to tell my parents about the situation and to show them the gift. They were sitting on the couch in the living room, watching some TV, completely unaware of the bizarre encounter I just had. I told them about the dude describing his appearance, but they didn't recognize him. There really wasn't much we could do, at least for now. Who knows if maybe he would come back and try to do some against me. But we never saw this man again, and never found out who he really was. We moved out of that house 1 year later. My uncle and my aunt threw a party for my cousin when he turned 8. Their house was pretty isolated from everything. It was close to a forest and a lake, but it was quite relaxing. We got there at 12 p.m. The whole family was there. Nothing better than a good family gathering at a birthday party. The property was really big, and there were tables with snacks and drinks all across their backyard. Some time passed as we chatted, played some video games, and ate some hot dogs. Around 8 p.m., people started to leave. Only the closest family members were still there. Me and my uncle were taking all the tables off the grass. That's when I heard something. It was footsteps, coming from the forest. I didn't see anything, so I thought I must have imagined it. After a few minutes, all the kids wanted to play some hide and seek in the backyard. I didn't want to play, so I sat there in a table with my uncle. It was a super nice day until that moment. After like 20 minutes, we hear all the kids coming back, running and screaming. When me and my uncle asked them what was going on, they said that there was something out there in the woods. I got instantly freaked out. My uncle, noticing the panic in the kids' faces, tried to calm them down. "It's probably just a deer or something," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. But I could tell he was just as uneasy as I was. The kids were adamant, though, whatever they saw in the woods wasn't just an animal for me. They described it as a tall, shadowy figure, moving silently among the trees. My uncle glanced at me, and I could see some worry in his eyes. Determined to prove it was nothing, my uncle grabbed a flashlight and headed toward the edge of the woods. I followed him, more out of a sense of duty than bravery. The kids huddled together. Their eyes were wide as they watched us go into the darkness. The woods were eerily quiet, save for the crunch of leaves under our feet. My uncle swept the flashlight beam across the trees, revealing nothing but branches swaying gently in the wind. We ventured deeper, the light barely penetrating the thick canopy above. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. We didn't find anything at first, and just as I was about to suggest we head back, we heard it. A very low, guttural sound, like something was breathing really heavily. My uncle stopped dead in his tracks with his hand tightening around the flashlight. We stood still for a second to listen. The sound came again, this time closer, like it was almost right behind us. My uncle whipped the flashlight around, with the beam cutting through the darkness. For a split second, we saw it. A tall, dark figure, barely visible but undeniably there. It stood motionless, its face hidden in shadow. My uncle swore under his breath, and before I knew it, we were both running back to the house as fast as we could. We burst out of the woods, screaming and covered in sweat. The kids were still there, huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. My uncle tried to brush it off, telling them we didn't see anything, but I could see the terror in his eyes. Whatever we saw in those woods, it wasn't something natural. The mood at the party shifted completely. My aunt noticed our shaken expressions and asked what had happened. My uncle told her what was happening. He was just as scared as the rest of us. As the night wore on, everyone seemed on edge. The adults kept glancing toward the woods, and us kids refused to go anywhere near them. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that whatever was in those woods hadn't gone away. Around 10 p.m., the power suddenly went out, and the entire house was plunged into darkness, and I could hear my little cousins start to cry. My uncle tried to find the breaker, but it was no use, nothing would come back on. My aunt lit some candles, but the flickering light only made the shadows in the house seem more sinister. That's when we heard it again. The same heavy breathing, but this time it was coming from outside the house. It was very clear, like whatever it was had moved closer. My uncle grabbed a kitchen knife and motioned for us all to be quiet. We huddled together in the living room. The breathing continued, circling the house, stopping at each window as if whatever was out there was trying to find a way in. The kids were crying softly, and I could see the fear on my uncle's face as he stood by the window, clutching the knife. After what felt like hours, the breathing finally stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. My uncle slowly moved toward the front door with his knife in hand and peered outside. There was nothing, no sign of the figure, no sound, just the dark and silent woods. Eventually, the power came back on, but no one was in the mood to celebrate anymore. My uncle insisted that we all stay inside until we find out what was going on. We locked every door and window. We actually slept there. We were all scared as shit. The next morning, as the sun rose and the events of the night before seemed like a distant nightmare, we packed up and left. I also could see the unease in my uncle's eyes as he loaded the car. Years later, we still don't know what the hell was in those woods that day, and we still talk about it often. We will probably never know what was it.